Dana and Dave to come and kind of talk about what they have going, because we've kind of been focusing on what's going down in Puna. And so they're here to let us know, because they've been kind of the movers and shakers, making things happen. So you guys want to come up here and talk about it?
Can everybody see us from right here?
Yeah.
Aloha, my name is Keawe. I come from Kalapana. I'm born and raised from Hawaii. And I just have such a big mahalo for Mike DuPont and Drake, for all the people that have been going down to Kalapana to help with the projects going on there. And I just wanted to let you know just a little bit about who I am and what I've been doing for the last few years, so you can have an idea about who I'm about. I had an accident in 2002, which changed the whole direction of my life. I went back to college in 2004 and 2007, and I worked on my associate and my bachelor's degree in wine studies. And then in 2007 to 2010, I worked as a volunteer coordinator with Councilwoman Emily Naiole in Puna. One of our projects, I'm leading you up to what brought me into this room tonight. A small group of volunteer community members helped start a food pantry called the Poibo in Pahoa in Puna. During this time, I got to see firsthand the needs of our community in Puna. I created a resource table for our clients to access public services, which helped them tremendously. Bus schedules, applications to university, on and on. Kupuna services, so our Kupuna had rides to their medical. All these things I had helped to address in our community. I found that the food from the food basket in Hilo was mostly unhealthy processed foods. Because of this, I started networking with local farmers to provide fresh produce for our food pantry in exchange for tax exemptions, as well, and I help coordinate work parties to help these local farmers with tasks that they have on their farms, and harvest the produce for our food pantry for our clients. Within 1 year, our food pantry grew to 2,000 people. We serviced about 200 people every month. But regardless of our efforts, we still didn't have enough food to give out to our community members who are in need of food. 1 out of 3 families in Hawaii do not have food security. In 2009, because of this, Auntie Emily asked me to focus on starting a community garden in Puna. I researched how to start a community garden, and I visited several school gardens and community gardens in our areas. Here's my research. I'll pass it around. How to start a community garden. In 2010, I hosted a community meeting in January. I invited expert farmers, political leaders, and community members who were interested in helping plan and start a community garden. At this meeting, I was advised by Dr. Manu Meyer, Eric Weiner Sr., and my Uncle Jerry Konanui to study Korean natural farming in Master Cho's 2010 workshop trainings to ensure the success of our community garden. I contacted Dr. Park and let him know that there was a group of us from Kalapana who wanted to attend Master Cho's trainings, but we couldn't afford the fees for this course. Dr. Park offered us 5 scholarships in exchange for a work trade. We pulled our resources together to buy 1 set of books and 1 set of CDs from those seminars so that we could study. In 2010 to 2012, after training with Master Cho and other CGNFH members, Kim Chang, all of these wonderful people here, Drake, the Hubbles, our small group started practicing Korean natural farming together in Kalapana on my Ohana family lands. We got together every weekend for 8 months and made all the inputs and started restoring the soils with IMOs. We planted a mala of kalo. The results were phenomenal. At first, most of my family, like most of you Korean natural farmers know, they thought we were crazy. Burning phones, collecting and planting weeds for FPJs in the early mornings. But after our Ohanas saw the amazing results from our efforts, they one by one started believing in Korean natural farming. And we started helping implement Korean natural farming techniques in our Ohana's backyards, like you saw in Mike's presentation. We set up tours to the piggery up in Curtistown so I could show my family no flies, no smell. They could not believe. You know, my Hawaiian family, their mouths are open and their eyes, they couldn't believe. And so it was just amazing. And so over the last 3 years, I have practiced and trained well over 100 people in Korean natural farming, from 4-year-olds to our keiki, and our keiki into our kupuna. In 2012, I started writing a book with the intention of putting proceeds into starting a natural farming research center and promoting Native Hawaiian healthcare. In July, my special book was published with a Larry Devotion Company. This is one of my dreams. I'll pass that around. This year, 2013, my focus has been on networking and collaborating with influential community members to help start a natural farming research center. I met and networked with other natural farmers, UHH, permaculture and agroforestry practitioners, hunters, fishermen, Hawaiian cultural practitioners, Huimalama Olana Olivi, and other CGNFH members. I took their 3-month course with Huimalama Olana Olivi because I was looking to do research. These books, I'll pass these around too. And this program here, My Kamala Ai, they have a diabetes education program. They implement backyard gardens, like some of you may already know about this program. But they each, as you learn diabetes training, they bring a little mala to your backyard. Okay, and they give you the seedlings, they give you seeds, they hold your hand for 3 months with this mala. Well, when I was looking at this program, they were using chemical fertilizers. And so I networked with Auntie Edna Baldado and Uncle Sam, who is also another Master Kalo farmer. And this year, the proceeds from this book I wrote, I've been making inputs to implement in this program next year to turn their backyard malas into Korean natural farming inputs. So we're very excited. We just secured 3 acres and a greenhouse in Panaeva. And so that's one of my projects that I've been working on. And I also invited, there's a couple other people here to talk about what we're doing. But my focus now is on, like Mike said, it's on a much larger scale because I've looked at, you know, working with our community, what our needs are. And so, tonight what I'm doing is I'm just putting a special call out to all of you here and invite any of you who want to help with our efforts to begin planning and starting a natural farming research center. Our bigger vision is to create model research centers which can be replicated in all 6 districts on our island and throughout Hawaii. This is my life vision. And I'll talk a little bit more, but I'd like to pass this over to Dave. And just today, I found out through Brother Juliet, and who I'd like to also to talk about a place where we can possibly create this research center. And afterwards, I would like to pass this around for any of you that have skills or interest in these projects, like grant writing, you know, whatever your natural farming skills are. If you want to be a part of this project, I will be the volunteer coordinator for this. And so, yeah, And so right now, I'll pass it over. This is Dave Sansone.
Actually, before I start, I want to give this to Dana. I'm giving time away to people. Yeah, thank you. You've been really nourishing my soul by following your dreams and praying the Spirit, and it's amazing just getting to know her, because just all these opportunities just are presented right in front of her, and that's because she's on the path, and it's really inspiring to meet someone like that. And, before we get started here, I am a card-carrying member of Green Natural Farming. I got my certification in the basic course. Kim, thank you, Kim, taught it, and I just strained off bamboo fermented plant juice and also banana flour fermented flower juice. So it's really fun making the inputs and using them and see how it works. I'm kind of like a horticultural mutt, though. I really like different cultivation systems. I started with organic farming and found really quick it was really unsustainable, a lot of work, and very expensive. And so I kind of, and I highly recommend this book that Dana has written, because in the beginning I could really relate to it, because some of the prayers that she said, I said, it was like almost like word for word. It was like, wow. And that explains how we have this connection. And I have had, the way led for me, I feel like. And so the farmer who I was training with said, look at Masanobu Fukuoka if you want to learn about sustainability. That's a Japanese natural farmer. Different system, complementary. It would work very well for us growing rice here. But his whole philosophy was a no-work philosophy. What we do is usually a detriment to our systems. He actually ended up with one of the most productive rice farming systems in Japan as a result of his no-work philosophy. So he had some of the highest production with the least amount of work, and also inputs. The farmer also told me, look at the indigenous methods, or as he said, the Indians, the Pacific Northwest Indians. Once again, the do-nothing method. What their method was is show up and harvest, because they built the infrastructure over generations and actually built a greater abundance. And that led me also into permaculture and forestry, and now here in Hawaii, traditional Hawaiian agriculture and Korean farming, natural farming. And so it's a little bit tricky sometimes piecing them together, but when I hear the needs, and I've really been interested in research. I've been doing this since 2002. Worked with, I'm not sure how many plants now, over 1,000 definitely. Like, I'm not sure what it is anymore, but I like growing things together. And because this is what the tribes of the Northwest are doing. They had their native plants, and that's what every culture, think about this, every culture just has the plants that are available to them to grow whatever. And so they just had like these root crops, and half of it's poisonous or whatever. So the Coast Salish people would grow all these root crops in meadows, and they were native plants, and they were growing together, and it was in fields that were passed down from mother to daughter. They were staked out. And then when the European explorers came through, they at first thought they were lakes. Wow, look at that beautiful lake, what? Turns out, from a distance, they did look like lakes, because the camas flowers were so blue, and there were so many, it looked like a lake. That's the scale they're working on, gardeners of a grand scale. And so over time, getting to know the native culture there and working with them on environmental rights, social rights, and learning, I started to realize, wait a second, the story isn't what we thought it was. There was actually a very productive system here, a lot of people who control the present, control the past. Same here in Hawaii. 10,000 people in Waipio Valley is what the estimate is right now. What is there, 100 right now, and they're all struggling. And so there's a lot of options for us, and when we combine, for me, when I combine the plants together, like here, I did a little experiment of taro and turmeric, olena. And it's just an experiment. I start small, see what happens, but this is from my worst garden. where I planted it, my mom was visiting, and we planted it, and I wanted to see what happened, so I didn't do anything. I had other gardens that I wanted to really do a better job on. I just didn't do anything. I went in there once, and I weeded it. I totally regretted doing that, because more weeds came. Worse ones. And so after that, I was like, screw it, I'm done, I'm just going to leave it alone. And so this grew, and we got the turmeric. This was growing with this one right here, and then this one here, and it's all aligned, and between it all was edible hibiscus and the native sumac, Hawaiian sumac. And so these are all growing at the bottom of this tree. If I killed that tree, it would have been swamped with grass. So it's like forming these beneficial relationships is what I've been learning about. And I see that happening now. I feel like there's alliances that are being built. And so this is kind of the analogy that we have for today, where we're all different, but right now we're kind of figuring out how do we relate to each other. And what are our roles? What do we love? What's our kuleana? What's our responsibility, our passion? And then how do we share that with others? And that's just like the tribes in the Northwest. It's so interesting. The cultural similarities are amazing. And so when I hear people talking about the Korean natural farming, and from what I've seen going to places, and just to back up one little bit, I studied at a permaculture research center, and then kind of created my own, and I've been doing that now. So for 2.5 years I've been doing that, and I've got this food jungle that it takes very little work. Like this whole year I've been really busy with all this other stuff, and I've just been planting. I don't have to weed. I can walk away from what I plant nowadays. I can plant it and walk away. And no weeds, because I started small, I figured out what worked well together, and I expanded on it. And now I've expanded more. And so I hear, the problem with, well, why aren't people farming? Well, I think the obvious thing is the land's expensive. There's the image of it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work if you don't have your team to help you out, and that's the plants and the animals. And knowing the relationships between them is a very important thing. All the regulations, the weeds, the pests, and also it's just not pono, honestly. Like just farming one thing and then trying to sell it and get money, it's going against people's nature. There's a reason. So I just grimace when I hear it, like Hawaiian homelands, like trying to force people to farm. Like they try to do that to the Indians. It doesn't work, right? You know what I'm saying? So let's do something that works, and that is the way humans are naturally, like Kanaka, right? Like true human beings are people who take care of nature, and it's been done for most of our life, most of humanity, and it's only very recently that things have been thrown off in the past, 2,000 years or 10,000, whatever. And so the solutions to the weeding and the food for the animals, I feel like. So here's the vision I have for the natural farm of tying permaculture, or together. Permaculture and natural farming is, if you can imagine a wheel where you have, in the center would be the center, the natural farming research center. So you have your buildings, the places for people, and then around it, and it all depends on the site, right? You can't just like take a blueprint of something and just stick it on the land, but you have your piggery, right? We've got these pigs, and they need to eat, right? Because they're pigs. So what do? We want to think of all the things that pigs like, and then we put them in a food forest. And this is what I've been doing, and I want to invite you all to come tour my garden, either at the end of January, sometime in January, February. I'm inviting different groups of people to come out and see it, because I've been, trying to get it just right so people can see it, and you see it from the beginning, from before I plant, right after I plant, 6 months, a year down the road, and you can see, oh, okay, yeah. Once everyone that walks through there is like, yep, I get it. And so for the pigs, first, or really any food forest, but for pigs, it all depends on the site, but radishes and turnips, they grow well right away. Taro, another one, does very well right away. They all grow well together. Then we've got Sweet potato ground cover and perennial peanut, they do well. Okinawa spinach as well. Pigeon pea is a very important support species. Sugarcane, papaya, banana, moringa, they all do extremely well growing together. They do better growing together. Like sugarcane, if you grow that with ice cream beans, sugarcane is going to grow tall. It's not going to flop over because the trees are there to support it. And so I actually get longer, straight sugar canes. You know, it's not always. I got a whole bunch of mistakes. You know, so I learned my lessons and then fix it. Yams, growing up those nitrogen-fixing trees like Bajul, Erythrina edulis, awesome. Bean tree, it's better at a little bit higher elevation. Ice cream bean, ulu, all these things. So that's just the pig food forest, and this is all based on an alley crop system. I'll just explain. Alley cropping is just imagine like an open meadow, and then trees on both sides, like a farm, right? Well, there's a system in agroforestry. It's very simple, where they just plant a line of trees, and then crops between it. And you get these ecological services from the trees. Like the trees will bring nutrients up from down deep. They're going to make some leaf litter. And if you're growing greens, you want some shade. You don't want full sun all day. Or the wind, you know, cut the wind down. So you can just do the piggery thing, and then you have your food forest coming up, and then it goes down, and then, oh look, here's a chicken. This is the house over here, green farming chicken. And then we've got the chicken food forest, which I'm doing a trial with that, chicken forage crops. And then it turns into another forest, the mulch forest, or the garden. And that's where we have all these weeds. And the only way, like Keawe was saying, and I know Clive does, is gotta use the mulch here. If you're not, you're killing your microbes, you're leaching, you're getting compaction, you're gonna have lots of weeds, which is not what people want. So then after that, we have our mulch and our veggies, and if we, here, I'll just give you a few other species. Lemongrass, citronella, Sudan grass, and vetiver, or like the stuff you have on your edges. And the lemongrass all through your garden, comfrey. If you have that, then you just come and cut the, you just cut it and throw it down. The one thing is, this is one of the challenges when I talk to people at university, it's for farms, it takes labor. And people want the point and click thing, point and shoot, and it doesn't really work that way. We have to be smarter here and not have the stresses. And so now with, here in Hawaii, it's aloha, and the family, ohana. And so we're here in the government building, and Mike's saying, we can change these laws. And so Dana, in her wisdom, said, well, let's just ask people, what do they want? And that's the whole thing. It's like, what's your calling, what's your passion, what are your connections? And I said, I was like, maybe someone's got $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, all these things, we have a lot to contribute and we have a lot to gain because this is an island. So I guess I'll just open it up unless you want to say anything else.
I got a question. What about clover?
What's that?
Clover.
It needs more, I'm no input, or now I use input, but I don't like lime. And I like to use the plants that are adapted to the land with no input. So clover needs a higher pH. And I already tried it. White clover, if it's like a drier area, it could work well, but I have a very acidic soil where I'm at. So like Waimea clover could do good. Down here, probably not. Desmodium heterophyllum is an excellent ground cover, low growing. It's nitrogen fixing.
Well, I'm just curious because clover is kind of taking over my place.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like clover to me.
Okay. Well, you never know. Did anyone else have a question? Yeah, if you got clover, I can go for it.
Is there a combination that ground cover you just talked about?
Desmodium hetero. It's a common weed on the side of roads. It's just a low-growing trifoliate. Yeah, it's really common. People have it, it's like usually right underneath their noses.
Where is your place, David?
Hakalau. It's right above the World Botanical Garden, like 1,100 feet high. So I got soil and water, so Taro is a nice thing there.
So we have about 20 minutes left of our meeting, and so time is so precious. And I also have Brother Gene and Clive here. I wanted them to just speak a little bit, and then I wanted to open this up to this group to ask you, what would you like to see in a natural farming research center, and to solicit people to be volunteer coordinators to work with our group to help make this happen. And so I'm going to pass this around for people to sign, to put your contact information. And what I'm going to do is just, in January, we'd like to have a meeting to start the planning of our research center. Like Mike said, we need to, I learned things tonight. It's so true. We practice on our own making these inputs. Then what do? I learned in Kim's, I was there as well, and my basic training certificate. And it's like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. And you can only learn so much from the books and the CDs, yeah? And so I love the idea of us creating the inputs in a larger amount, and I want to support you. I love making the inputs, and so I want to support in helping create that in a larger scale with you. And Clive, I invited Clive here this evening because he has lands in Keawe that he is working on. And would you share just a little bit about your projects there, before we open this meeting up, and then I'll pass this around so that people can put their contact info. If you want to be a part of our group and play with us in the garden.
Aloha, good evening everybody. I've been playing around with the land down in the Keawe area since 1979. And a long time ago I realized that my job was to create maximum habitat for the life, for the soil food web. There's a wonderful book called Soil Biology put out by the University of Oregon. So the soil food web is just all the life, from the bacteria and fungi all the way up to animals and birds and everything. And so the Korean natural farming is definitely focused on the real tiny things, as far as I know. I've never actually done any Korean natural farming, but I've been interested in it the whole time. What I'm doing is providing habitat for these inputs. If a concentrate of microorganisms is created, my job is to make sure there's the habitat where it can thrive, rather than spraying it somewhere and it's going to die tomorrow. The sun's going to shine on it, or it doesn't have all the right things, moisture and darkness and correct temperature. So my focus has been, how do I always keep the ground covered with the perfect habitat for all the things that we can see scurrying around and the things we can't see. And I'm into it on a large scale. I see nothing wrong with bringing fertility back to several hundred acres or less, whatever. And doing that knowing that it's going to take maybe 10 years. Take a large acreage of former chemical farmed land in Puna that's basically rocks with a bit of soil in it. And spending 10 years building 4 inches of rich, beautiful soil. So I've done that on a few acres. I've proven to myself that I could do it on any amount of acres. I mean, I've built 4 inches of topsoil in 10, 12 years. In one area, simply by mowing elephant grass once a year in March. That's all I did. Didn't do anything else. And my tractor will mow 10 acres of fully grown elephant grass, 1 year old. It will mow 10 acres in one day. So that means you can create topsoil like that, rich topsoil, with 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches in Puna is like, wow, we got soil. You know. So when you do the math, that's 10 days work in 10 years to produce 10 acres of beautiful soil. So that's the kind of scale I'm into. Or for example, you could grow albesias really super thick together on a large acreage. And then Mike Krause has this wonderful farming machine of the future called the gyro track. The gyro track drives through this forest of trees that you've grown for 5, 6, 7, or 8 years, and it simply grinds them all up into chips without moving them. It just does it, and it leaves behind the blanket. What a nice way to start, to begin the process of...
A giant Albizia tree?
Well, no, they're not giant, because you've only grown them for 6 or 7 years. You know, they're like this. But they're really close together, right? They're just thick, 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 thick. And they've created a nice amount of microorganisms and life.
I heard they're nitrogen fixers.
And if you come along with a bulldozer and push them all off, it's like, no.
Right.
All those years of building up fertility, and they just pushed it all off. And the sun shines on it, and then it's a big mess. So, those are the kind of things that I'm into. I'm not afraid of large scale or machinery, because it's all about life. And I'm into doing whatever it takes to get the maximum life. And these inputs, the Korean natural farming, it's just perfect. It's just so perfect for this kind of system. Yeah, anyway, I've been harvesting my own mulch from elephant grass for 14 years now. I drag a 13-yard dump trailer behind the tractor, and there's a machine that grinds it up and throws it in there, and then I can just dump it where I'm going to use it. So that's enough.
Wow.
So I have a question. So you said that there's a project, like a larger acreage now that...
The landowner in Puna, the big landowner in Keawe, is Keawe Land and Development Company, which is run by Lono Lyman. And Lono's come down to visit me, and he's saying that he's got up to 500 acres unleased, because the papaya farming is kind of not doing that well. And the leases are being let go. So there's a chance to get a large acreage to mix in the forestry, the big grasses, the cattle, the Korean natural farming, and crops, and have it all be complementary. So it's moving around on long-term rotations. It's not like we're going to grow this here forever or this here forever. We're going to have long-range plans where things are moving around, so that we're always focused on making sure we got fertility. Yeah.
Do you teach others to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and people come and work at my farm on Mondays and Thursdays. So yeah.
I can reach you through that.
Yeah.
He also has his own website as well. You can look what wonderful things he's doing.
Oh, what's your website?
AMA, the name of my organization is AMA, A-M-A, the outrigger, like a new, right? AMA, and the website is AMA and where it is. AMA, Puna, Hawaii.
I'm a Puna, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just to add to what Keawe was saying,
Either, Komoro.
because I see that some of our needs are feed for our cattle, like I've spoken with my couple and I've heard from Kaika tonight, that we buy our grains and our feeds because we don't want GMO from the mainland. And so a bigger vision for our lands in Keawe is with cattle, and providing feed for our animals here through natural farming. And so that's something that's in the works with our lands.
And dedicating a large area that grows cattle and mulch, so that people who are doing small-scale backyard gardening will have a place to come to get mulch.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have your mulch, you're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's the other thing I found. A lot of us go to the dump to get this mulch, But if we can grow wonderful, healthy mulch with natural farming inputs, we know where it's coming from. And so I'm aware our meeting is over right now, but I want to further this discussion with whatever contacts are on this list. I will get back to you. We will plan a meeting, and we will really look at what we'd like to see in our natural farming research center. And I can also perhaps at our next CGNFH meeting, open that up as a part of the discussion at the end as well. And so, thank you so much for your time, for listening to our presentation, for all of you persevering, practicing natural farming. This is the wave of the future.
Yes.
And thank you.
So other good news in natural farming is Representative Omishi came out, checked out our farm, and spent about 2 hours talking with him. That he's really receptive to natural farming, and he's the vice chair for the Ag Committee. So on the state level, we got a really good key ally in there that's very aware of what's going on and how the natural farming applies. He saw my no-smell animals, he saw the things where we're not using all the fertilizer we've made on the land. So that's good. And the other thing I'm doing is I just taught a class this past weekend on lactic acid bacteria, but I've been starting up more basic, really simple, componentized input making workshops. So if you're not aware, please check out naturalfarminghawaii.net. Again, that's naturalfarminghawaii.net. And there's a calendar on there. That's where I post the events coming up, the trainings coming up. The Kalapana ones are on there, and there's going to be more coming out there. And we're working on really getting the certifications together so that then we can move on to the learning centers, and there's actually a basis and a method to our madness. So mahalo, thank you for all making the effort to come out here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.